Hi there. I'm Cindy Linden, and this is the Cook Along Podcast. As you may have heard me speak of before, I work with Penzeys Spices. And just like everybody else, there are things I buy, and there are things I don't buy. Some of it because I just don't feel like I need it or that I want to experiment with it. And some of it because I just don't know what to do with it. I've never done anything with Chinese 5-spice. And that's just because I have this preconceived idea of what it should be used for, that it should be put into savory Chinese dishes in a way that I don't understand. So I've never bought any, but for probably the past year, whenever I walk over to that part of the store, I end up sort of smelling. They have jars so that you can smell the spices. I smell the Chinese 5-spice, and I think to myself, this does not smell like something for a savory recipe. It smells like a baking spice. And then I go home thinking, what could I do with that? What could I use that for that isn't a savory dish at all, but is a sweet thing? Like a cookie of some sort is what of course, that's my go-to. And I finally went online to see what there might be for Chinese 5-spice. And I learned some things about Chinese 5-spice that would have put me off the cookie idea because a lot of versions of Chinese 5-spice have pepper in them, just ground black pepper. I know there are cookies that use ground black pepper. I don't really want that in my cookies. It's not what I'm looking for when I want a cookie. But the ingredients in Penzeys Chinese 5-spice are these: China cassia cinnamon, star anise, anise seed, ginger, and cloves. Those are all sweet spices. Now that means that both kinds of anise are going to give the cookies a little bit of a licorice kind of flavor. I'm not a licorice fan, but this smells so good to me that I don't see how it could be terrible. And if I don't like them, well, that's fine, but I have to try it. So in looking at recipes online, of which there were not nearly as many as I would have expected, I found some snickerdoodle kinds of things where a sugar cookie essentially is rolled in sugar and 5-spice. I'm not a big fan of snickerdoodles. I don't know why you'd think I would like them. I like sugar cookies just fine, but they just don't move me. And the only other thing I found really was oatmeal cookies, which is not at all what I had imagined. I kind of wanted to put it in some sugar cookies. And maybe someday I'll have to just develop that on my own. But first I thought, let's try somebody else's version of how to use 5-spice cookies. So this is a recipe from food.com by Jessie Hannon. It's called 5-spice oatmeal raisin cookies. It's going to make quite a lot of cookies. I'm going to cut it in half. It makes 48 cookies. I do not need that many cookies in my house, even in my freezer. That is dangerous. Although I do sometimes like to just freeze little balls of dough and then be able to pull them out and bake 2 at a time. But I think maybe I just don't still need 48 of them. I'm hoping you'll come along with me on this experiment, and we'll see how we like it. I would love to get your comments about it because I need to know if I need to develop something further or quite different from this. And I will have my own opinion, but I'd love to hear yours, plus any ideas that you might have about other ways to make Chinese 5-spice based cookies. Today's recipe ingredients are, and I'm giving you this for the whole 48 cookies, all right? A half a pound of unsalted butter, and that is 2 whole cubes of unsalted butter. 1 cup of packed light brown sugar. I don't have any light brown sugar. I only have dark brown sugar right now. So that's what I'm going to use. And I know there's a difference. I'm just not going to worry about it. A half a cup of granulated sugar, 2 large eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1.5 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. If you don't have unbleached, I don't think it's a big deal. Use whatever all-purpose flour you've got. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of Chinese 5-spice powder, preferably, I think, one without pepper in it, and Penzeys might be available locally in your area, but you can also buy their stuff online at penzeys.com. And that is a free, unsponsored plug, by the way, for them. It says 1 to 2 tablespoons ground ginger, depending on taste. I am of mixed feelings about that. That's a lot of ginger, and I don't want them to turn into ginger cookies. So I will be deciding later how much ginger to use or whether to replace that with cinnamon or something else. A half teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of quick oats. That's not instant oats, and it's not old-fashioned oats. It's the thing in the middle. Quick oats. And a cup of raisins. You can use your regular raisins. I think I'm going to use golden raisins. I don't know. Right now, that's my current kick is golden raisins. I also rarely use dark raisins in oatmeal cookies. I put dried cranberries in there instead. All of those things I think will be good in here. Your equipment is a mixer. I think you could do this by hand, but I don't think you want to. So an electric mixer would be good. A second bowl, a whisk, and a cookie sheet. And your do-aheads are to preheat your oven to 350 degrees and slow everything down if you have to warm up your butter, because your butter is supposed to be at room temperature. And that is something you can soften it a little bit by setting it outside in the sun for just a few minutes, or sticking it in your pockets and walking around for 20 minutes. 15 minutes. I did that the other day and forgot about it and sat down and then had a pocket full of butter. This is, of course, in the wrapper, right? Don't stick the cubes of the butter in your pockets without the wrapper. It was bad enough when they sort of softened too much in my pockets and still had a wrapper around most of them. And as usual, it's probably easiest to put all those things in those amounts on your counter before you start, so that all we're doing is mixing things together as we go. So go collect all your stuff and come on back to me when it's all ready to go. Well, I don't have everything out on my counter. I think we're going to do this in stages. So I have everything ready for the first stage, which is the butter and the sugar and the eggs and the vanilla. Now, I don't know if I said at the beginning that your brown sugar needs to be packed. So it's a cup of it tightly crammed into your measuring cup. That's usually the way you measure brown sugar. Something less densely packed, obviously, is less sugar. So our first step is going to be to take that packed brown sugar and put it in the bowl of your stand mixer, or in the bowl you're going to use your hand mixer with. And then add the white sugar as well. And then get that butter out of your pocket or wherever you've set it to warm up. Mine is actually outside in the sun, which might not be the smartest thing in the world, but I'm trying to keep a close eye on it. I'm going out there now because we don't want it to pool. We don't want it to melt. But the sun seems to be doing its job, and it's not really room temperature. Room temperature means it gives a little bit. Well, I guess it's doing that. It gives a little bit when you squeeze it. I am going to go ahead and try this because that's what I do. I am not a patient person, and it's soft enough. At least I hope so. What we're going to do is turn the mixer on low to start. Oh yeah, mine squeaks a little when it first starts up. And then we're going to turn it up and let it cream the butter and sugar together. So we want to get it up to about medium speed. And we're going to let it work until the butter and sugar are completely blended and it's a nice homogenized, fluffy kind of mixture that you look like you want to eat with a spoon. It's going to take a few minutes, so go on away and come back when you have that mix in your bowl. And meanwhile, if you want to, you can start to assemble your dry ingredients. Remember to measure the flour by stirring it up first, so you aerate it, and then scooping it gently into your measuring cup and leveling off the top. You don't want too much flour in these or they're going to be dry and dense. Well, I hope you figured this out. I forgot to tell you you'd probably have to stop the machine to scrape down the sides of the bowl a couple of times. And I realize that there is a stage that you might mistake for fluffy that's actually creamy and not fluffy. I can't explain that to you, but I think if you stop and ask yourself every few minutes, is that fluffy or is it just creamy? The machine will put the ingredients together pretty quickly, but then it has to go through all these different stages. And when it's actually fluffy, it looks fluffy, and it's a little bit lighter color than when you started. And once you've achieved fluffy, whatever that means in your eyes, then we're going to add the eggs, which you should do, really, into a separate bowl first so that you don't drop any eggshell in or come onto other mishaps. And I should have done that but didn't. And you'd think I would, because I have had some really bad experiences while trying to just break an egg directly into a mix. You can hear about that in my One Bowl Brownie podcast. Some people are not meant to learn lessons from their problems, and I must be one of those. And then in with the egg, which you just dropped into your bowl of butter and sugar, goes your 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And we're going to mix it again. Just turn that thing on. This will only take a moment this time. Until it gets all mixed and you don't see any more slimy, gooey egg parts. All right. Now, if you've been a good little cook, unlike me, you already have your dry stuff ready to go into this mix. I did not do that because I was busy thinking about the difference between creamy butter and fluffy butter. So now I have to pull my dry ingredients together. So into a separate bowl, I'm going to put the flour. And I have actually unbleached white flour. That's what I usually have in my house. I know sometimes bleached is better, but it just, I don't know. I object to the word, I think. More in principle than anything else. Bleached. I don't know. It seems like a bad idea. It isn't, but it seems like it. All right, so now the flour goes in my bowl. It's been lightly, gently scooped into my measuring cup. And then goes the baking soda. And then the fun stuff. This tablespoon of Chinese 5-spice powder. And then I'm going to smell it. See, it smells really anisey. Okay, so I'm putting this into the bowl. And I'm actually going to whisk that up before I add the ginger it asks for. Because I want to see what my nose tells me about whether it needs ginger or whether it needs cinnamon. And the reason I'm questioning this is because I saw another recipe very similar to this one that did not use the extra ginger. It used the extra cinnamon instead. Let's see. Well, it smells... It smells mostly like anise. It smells mostly licoricey. I think I'm going to split the difference. It says 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground ginger. I think I'm going to use a scant tablespoon of cinnamon. I'm using Penzeys mixed. It's a blend of 4 different kinds of cinnamon. And then I'm also going to use a scant, maybe just like half a tablespoon of ginger. Ginger's such a strong flavor. I don't know. I may not like these. But I had to try it. We'll find out. All right, now whisk all that together. Oop, forgot the salt. Put your salt in there, which is a half a teaspoon. You don't want to leave that out. That helps brighten and contrast all the sweet stuff we put in. And then whisk that together. And then we're going to go dump that into the mixer where the butter and sugar mixture is. Okay, and now we're going to mix that up. just slowly so you don't send all that flour shooting all around your kitchen. And we're going to just get it to where everything's wet. There's no powder left, which means I have to scrape the powder off the sides of the bowl here. And then, close enough. All right, mix that in. And now the oats go in and the raisins. And you could just stir these in, but I am going to do them in the mixer because it's easier. Because why wouldn't I do that? Really, I'm afraid that's the truth of it. It's just easier to leave it where it is than try to mix this by hand. I don't want to work that hard. So your 3 cups of oats go in. Did I get the right kind? No. No, I only got a few in there. I picked up, just out of habit, I picked up the old-fashioned oats. Wrong oats. I think that's probably because the quick oats will cook faster and the regular rolled oats will stay a little stiffer and drier. So now I have the right thing. Quick 1-minute oats. It's the same thing. It's just chopped in smaller bits. So let's try that again. I maybe got a tablespoon of regular oats in there. So 1, 2, and the last one a little scant because of what I got in of the wrong kind. 3. And I think I'll mix that in first before I add the raisins. Let's get that all amalgamated and get a real batter going here. That takes just a second. And now I'm going to go get the raisins. Do I want cranberries? You know, I think with a 5-spice, I don't. I think I really want the golden raisins. It's something about, it's just calling to me as appropriate to go with the 5-spice. So a cup of those are going into this mix, and we'll just do a quick spin with that. Well, I seem to be salting my kitchen counter with golden raisins. They're everywhere now. They are not going where I want them, into the measuring cup. All right, that's probably enough. That's probably. It's a little hard to measure them because they stick together. I think it's close enough. They're going in. And then a tiny turn with the mixer till they get mixed around. And voila. There we have our cookie dough. Okay, now you need your cookie sheet. We do not need to grease it because we put so much butter into these cookies. And I'm going to use a huge sheet, full sheet baking sheet, because it'll save me having to go back and forth with a bunch of different batches. It is kind of big for my counter. So now I am cleaning off the beater, getting all that stuff back down into the bowl. And then you can use a regular flatware spoon. You can use a measuring spoon, or you can use an ice cream scoop. Sometimes people like to do that because they come out all the same size. But what we want to do next is put these on here by heaping tablespoons onto this ungreased baking sheet. That isn't very big. The cookies are not going to be huge. They will spread. We probably should leave some space between them. Hopefully your oven is meanwhile getting ready to do its thing. I think I'm going to use, I'm going to use a tablespoon because they're really not very big and I don't want to oversize these. And I'm going to use my fingers mostly, heaping tablespoon, but that's not as much as 2 tablespoons. I find that interesting. So I scooped and now I'm making a little ball with my fingers and flattening it out just slightly on the cookie sheet. I kind of think these are going to be closer to 2 tablespoons. In which case it would have been easier for me to use my 1/8 of a cup measuring scoop. But it doesn't really matter. I don't care if they're not all the same. They smell like cinnamon. Not so much like anise anymore. And I'm putting up about 2 inches apart. And that may be overkill. But it seemed better to have them too far apart than too close together. And I just am really doing most of the work with my hands after scooping. I don't know that they all got raisins in them. I hope they did. It seemed like a lot of raisins, and I can't. Well, you know why I can't see them? I can't see them because they're the same color as the dough. If I'd used either the cranberries or the regular raisins, they'd be easier to see. That one is too big. Well, you don't have to stand with me here while I do this. You could go do this on your own. You know what you're doing. You're putting them on the sheet about 2 inches apart, just heaping tablespoon size. And then you are going to put them into your preheated 350-degree oven, and you're going to bake them for 10 to 12 minutes. And then when you take them out of the oven, let them sit and cool on the cookie sheet just a little bit before you try to take them off, or you're going to find that they're too soft and they just fall apart. So give them a minute to sort of solidify on the sheet before you try to lift them off. And I will be back to let you know how they taste. My cookies I left in for 11 minutes because they didn't look quite done at the 10-minute mark. And then I let them sit, and I think I let them sit for too long because despite all the butter in here, they seem to be sticking to the cookie sheet a little bit. They're almost cool, and I think that was a mistake. I will take a picture of these and put them on the website for you, thecookalongpodcast.com. where you will find so many other kinds of cookies. I make more cookies probably than I do anything else. I like them. I will take baked goods over candy almost any day, and cookies are generally pretty easy. All right, there's a piece I dropped. Huh. Interesting. Well, they are very licoricey. Here, I'm going to take another bite. They are pretty licoricey. Huh, I think my partner's going to love these. I don't know how I feel about this. Like I said, I'm not a licorice fan, but the combo of spices is nice. I'm not sure I would do this again. Oh, well, they are good. They grow on you. I think I just have this thing about tasting the licorice and then thinking, well, I don't like that because it's always been my way. I don't like it, haven't liked it. I don't know that means I don't like it now. I think I'm not going to be very helpful, and I think you're going to have to make your own decision about these. They definitely taste of the anise, and I know many people love that flavor, in which case this is a great recipe for you. The rest of us, I think it's going to take time. I think I'm going to have to eat a few of these before I know how I feel about them. I'm sorry I can't be more definitive or decisive, but that's just the way it's going to be today. And if you decide that you don't care for that anise flavor, there are so many other cookies on the website that you will not find yourself at a loss. Most of them are very easy and fairly quick and incredibly good. I have some amazing cookie recipes on there. Just go to the search bar and type in the word cookie, and you will see them all. If you want to tell me what you think of these cookies, and like I said, perhaps offer some other ways to try using the Chinese 5-spice, please either email me at cindy@thecookalongpodcast.com, CINDY, or send me a Facebook message. I check Facebook a lot, and it's really my only advertising place, and I post that I have a new recipe for you or a new podcast for you. You'll find that on Facebook. I just do not know how I feel about these. I think they're good. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think, please. I really would love to hear your input on these. And until next time, happy cooking!